Greetings, listeners. You're tuning in to Sinister Soup, an audio imprint of Grendel Press for lovers of everything dark and delicious. I'm your host, Clay Vermolum. We hope you enjoy today's story and remember to stay tuned afterwards for a featured interview with the author. See you on the other side. Drink Me by Alice Loweecey. The trees cast shadows made of dreams in a dank cellar. The woman wanted to skirt their edges, but she needed mushrooms. Morels, they were called. Her mouth still remembered the taste of them fried in butter. A long-fingered shadow clutched her sweater. She flapped the gray wool, air wishing through its many holes. The fingers clawed through its random emptiness and fell away thwarted. They should leave her alone. She didn't eat trees, not since her sole attempt at pine needle soup. She'd found the survival guide in the abandoned house. The flimsy book had been too mildewed to use as toilet paper, so she tried reading the least spotted pages. When she stopped laughing at its citified, upper-class advice, she tore out the soup recipe. Her taste buds still curled in on themselves at the result. A gap in the shadows beckoned her. She dropped to her knees and pushed her hands through the layers of half-eaten leaves and rotted pine duff. Something multi-legged scurried away from her searching fingers. She would have called it a pill bug if it hadn't been the size of her hand. Her eyes tried to insist they'd seen rudimentary faces on each of its armor plates, 8, 12, 16 eyes sizing her up. Would she taste as delicious as decaying pine straw and drifts of chestnut leaves? Was she worth the hunt? The mound of decayed plant matter rustled. She scurried in the opposite direction before the bug's relatives squirmed into the light to see what had interrupted their supper. Supper? Morels. Her mouth discarded the pine soup memory and salivated. She straightened her spine. The night mists had started to form. So soon? She'd been sure to leave herself at least 2 hours for this expedition. Today, the light had been as pale as the hairy fungus on trees. A good day to forage. The mists clung to the tops of her sneakers. There was still time. She turned to the west to catch the last of the burnt daylight. A ridge of trees? No. Columns? No. What were they? Hunger must have confused her sense of direction because she didn't remember anything like them from her many foraging trips in these woods. She'd once read stories about people dying from thirst, how the taste and feel and smell of water engulfed their senses. Water from fountains, from streams, from a garden. Hose. She'd lost the name of the long green tubes for a moment. Her insistent desire for morels overwhelmed her. She could think of nothing but mushrooms fried in butter. She had to have some. She would find some. When she did, she'd find a way to cook them. Something to use as a pan, some substitute for butter. Her teeth clamored to chew their creamy sponginess. Her feet carried her towards the what-were-theys in the west. They could be aspens. Their bark wasn't pale, but maybe the light tricked her eyes. Morels grew beneath aspens. She walked faster, the rising mists shredding off her ankles, the first chitterers announcing their nightly climb from their nests in the murk. She risked a short run. The flap of her sneakers on the detritus would be a beacon for them, but she could dredge up enough energy to power her emaciated self onto the buckled road. The split sole on her left foot betrayed her at the edge of the road. Her long limbs splayed on the rough surface. Old eruptions of the asphalt layers poked through her fraying clothes in 8 different places. The chittering filled her ears, drowning out her deep gasps. Her body pulled itself until all of her lay outside the woods. Safe. The chitterers buzzed and clacked at the edge of the trees. Their pairs and trios of diamond-shaped eyes, never single, never more than 3, glared green and yellow through the mist. She raised her head, the line of trees facing her like stalks of asparagus, carrots, celery, so many tall, thin vegetables she hadn't tasted in years. Trees shouldn't look like celery. Once she didn't like celery. Something about dieting. Her thoughts refused to coalesce. The chitterers at her back, the mist, the hunger, the rotting opossum reek of the mist stung her eyes, filled her nose, but through it slipped a tendril, a molecule, a memory of a rich, earthy, meaty aroma. She sat up. The trees wavered and solidified. The mist had that effect at times. So did chitterer venom. She clawed off her sneakers and yanked up her patched jeans, pretzeled her legs up against her face to inspect them in the ochre twilight. Her inspection showed no bites or embedded mandibles. The world stopped shuddering. She wouldn't need the packet of dried belladonna root hidden under the boards of the old solid floor in her house. She still woke up screaming from nightmares of her friends. She forced herself to remember their names. Georgina and Anthony. They'd met in the woods, all 3 running, hiding from one of the petty warlords who fed survivors to those who'd brought the chitterers. They'd split up searching for food one day, and a different collaborator captured them, one who liked to experiment. He called himself a scientist, laced their food with chitterer venom, kept them in cages after they changed, dragged them to the despot's enclave to show them off. When she'd finally caught up to them, she foraged in secret for belladonna, found 3 scraggly bushes on the 6th night. She ripped them up by the roots, chopped the leaves and berries, and brewed tea. Anthony's 3 eyes had merely stared at her, but Georgina's porous tongue twitched at the scent rising from the bowl. They stretched through the rusted bars and splashed into the liquid. The burgundy tint crept up the sinuous length of the tongues until it reached Georgina's mouth. Her facial scales clashed together once. She fell to the cage floor, curled in on herself like a dead spider. To this day, the woman didn't know if Anthony had understood what she'd brought or if he'd snatched the bull out of hunger. What his eyes did after he drained the bull still ruined her sleep, but in less than a minute, Anthony laid coiled next to Georgina. As far as she could calculate, she'd survived 2.5 years alone since that night. Always watching for the despot's enforcers, for chitterers, for the mist trying to seize the territory beyond the trees. Twilight abandoned her while she shook her clothes into place. But she no longer needed much light to navigate. The trees were due west. She turned her back on the woods, the action less dangerous from her position on the road. Her split sole flapped, slapped, flopped on the shattered surface, but the siren song of morels drew her to the maybe aspens. Her eyes embraced the perpetual gloom as she neared the trees, their tall outlines angled to points instead of spreading into branches with rustling leaves. Another memory whispered to her. Not food this time. A piece of history. Something else she hadn't thought about in years. She kept walking, no longer hearing her shoe flaps. Her memory wrestled with the image. Properties, tall, terminating in a point. When the asphalt changed to tufts of grass alternating with patches of packed dirt, she abandoned the tree designation. These 4-sided objects captured the dregs of light and shone like they'd been polished. They were beautiful, precise, gleaming, beguiling, darker than the shadows beneath the trees. Tears swelled in her eyes. Beauty had vanished 12, 18, 24 years ago, the day she and 2 smaller versions of herself had gathered mushrooms and garlic and onions for supper. So hungry for so long. She used to worry the hunger had starved her brain as well as her body. Smaller versions of herself, not scarecrow thin, glossy hair framing plump faces, smiling with all their teeth. They laughed and joked while they cooked with butter and meat and fresh vegetables. They ate until they were full. The vision ended. Names, places, colors abandoned her. The tall black spires wavered, refocused, shone like a beacon through her starved memory. She clawed on hands and knees through the solid dirt and spiky grass, her brain whimpering pieces of names, her teeth grating against her lips, cheeks themselves. She wiped her hand across her lip and held it before her face. Too dark to see the color of the blood dripping from her mouth, thicker and colder than belladonna tea. She abandoned her sweater, shredded by the asphalt. Her naked feet bled. She didn't recall losing her shoes. Glass sliced between her nails and fingertips. Nail sail, hail shoe, blue glue, smiles, laughter, names, Lou and Gail. She had not copies of herself. She groped for the word. Daughters. She and her daughters that had lived together, cooked for each other, ate, slept, dreamed, told stories. An intact memory spiked into her head, heart, brain, the frying pan, with mushrooms and garlic flipping over and over through the air as the shrieking black spire impaled their house. Her daughters screaming as the spire burst open like a spider egg, and uncountable miniature spires scrambled out. The spire's family, daughters too, clawed into them with jagged nails and venomous teeth, and they screamed. They screamed as the teeth ripped chunks from them, and the morels scattered on the floor, and she ran. She ran. She abandoned them, and she forgot her daughters, until she lay there half naked and bleeding and abased before the spire. The obelisk. It was an obelisk, but it wasn't, because obelisks were stone, and this one's spider egg split, and its daughters swarmed over her, and their teeth and claws shredded her throat, her breasts, her womb, and she saw her daughters' faces on the gleaming, not stone, not faces, before they plunged their teeth into her burgundy eyes. Thank you, Alice, for this claustrophobic, Lovecraftian, and unsettling romp through the cosmic post-apocalypse. I love the tight-knit nature of this story. It's absolutely terrifying how close in we are, how closed off we are, how in the dark, just like our character as we run through the woods with her. All throughout, we journey with our protagonist on a mission of self-discovery, preserving the past, preserving love, cherished memories, and a fleeting sense of identity in a world that has been torn asunder and forever changed. All while wondering if our main character is in fact even herself. After all, without our memories, without an occupation or a true home or a future, what is a person's identity? Maybe that's a question for the obelisks, eh? If you enjoyed this story, you're in luck. Alice has many short stories available online right now. She has a couple of different collections, and you can find them at the links in this post's bio on grendelpress.com. You'll see it down there at the bottom of the written version of this story on our Sinister Soup blog. I will also put it in the show notes for this episode everywhere you might find it. This has been Sinister Soup, an audio and online imprint of Grendel Press for lovers of everything dark and delicious. To all you listeners, thank you so much for being here. As always, I've been Claver Mullum, your host, and until next time, we'll see you on the other side.